So, what is biomimicry?
Yeah, so you can find a few definitions online for what biomimicry is, but how I define biomimicry is that biomimicry is a practice that learns from and mimics the strategies found in nature to help us humans solve design challenges. So how can we look to nature to solve some of the problems that we're facing with clean energy or with pollution or with even structural design? How can we look towards how evolution has done it over billions of years to design our way towards something that is either more efficient, more sustainable, or, helps us with our health.
So what advantages do biological systems have in terms of design versus something that we would design in more of a, I guess, top-down way?
That's actually a really good question. So animals often develop very niche strategies for the environment that they're in. So they're not good at everything. They're usually very good at one specific thing. So we're not looking to one animal to help us solve all our ails, right? We're actually saying, wow, this creature is so good at this one thing. And can we take inspiration from that? Can we use that and incorporate it into our own designs? Because sometimes we don't have access maybe to the same materials that animals are using, right? Or we can't harness the energy of the sun quite as well as animals can yet. But we can be inspired by this really efficient design process that they've developed, because energy is the key resource in the animal kingdom, right? They don't want to have to overproduce something to get a benefit. If they need to get food, they want to do it in the most efficient way possible. And oftentimes that means they design in a very smart fashion, although of course evolution has no foresight in mind, but it ends up being a very smart solution to a design challenge.
And I guess animals, biological systems, creatures, not just animals, plants obviously too, but they have the advantage of time, right? They've had bazillions of years to figure this stuff out, or their genes have had bazillions of years to figure this stuff out, whereas we're trying to do this in a year or 2 years or 10 years.
Exactly. It's a benefit for them, and it's also can be a pitfall in our design, in the sense that they've had all these billions of years to design something so perfectly concocted for their environment, right? But then how do we humans do the same thing? So, like coral, for example, they take a very slow time to build their skeletons. And yet we've taken inspiration from coral to help us create concrete that builds our buildings, right? To make a greener cement with less carbon dioxide. But they do it so slowly, and we need to process and build things really quickly. So sometimes what we do is we supercharge nature in science. We say, wow, this is amazing. How can we speed it up? Mm-hmm. So time works to their advantage in terms of the long evolutionary time and the brilliant ideas that has come from that, has sprung from those billions of years. But then at the same time, maybe a species can't pivot, like a single species in this moment can't pivot quite as quickly as we could with our science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think of... in particular with plant evolution and pharmaceuticals, I think that's one that, I mean, is comes foremost to my mind in terms of, long processes of evolution, and then we're mimicking these processes to create new drugs, right? Is that a kind of avenue of biomimicry that you've explored?
It's a huge one. Yeah, I have a chapter dedicated to health. It's actually I focus on a reptile, but a lot of the examples towards the end of that chapter is plants, because so much of our medicine is inspired by plants in the natural world. They just have this great chemical diversity. It's really the diversity of the plant kingdom that is so extraordinary and that has really worked well to our advantage. Same with venoms. Oddly enough, it's very much plants and venoms that I think it can sound woo-woo to people because they're like, oh, herbal remedies, you must be talking about some kind of witchcraft. But it's not at all. Like our breast cancer medications, our penicillin, our, a whole bunch of these like really important medications that affect millions of people have been inspired by plants and animals and their venoms. And it's pretty incredible stuff. And I'm surprised that we tend to like distance that association,
Yeah, I think when people think about that, they don't think of that's biomimicry. They're thinking of something that's more in the realm of like engineering, in particular, structural
and it is
or something
a bit.
like that.
Yeah, that's actually what is so interesting about biomimicry is that it's an interdisciplinary field. So if you look at, MIT or Harvard, they have sole departments dedicated to biomimetic science, but they're bringing in people who are chemists, who are engineers, who are designers, and they're getting them to all sort of sit at the table and say, hey, we have this problem. How can we solve it? And so it really is kind of getting all of those people together, like you say, right? And be like, this is a challenge. What can we do? I'm going to bring my expertise from this angle, from this angle, from this angle. And yeah.